Good morning, everyone. Good morning. We have a packed house today. How exciting. If you're still joining us, we do have a few extra seats sort of sporadically throughout the crowd, so feel free to take a seat if you're able to do so. Might not be able to sit with your friend that you brought or your spouse, but you know we have some seats available, so feel free to take a seat. Some housekeeping items before we get started. As a courtesy to the presenters, if you could turn your cell phones off or mute them at this time, that would be so appreciated. Thank you so much. We are joined by our folks that are coming in via live streaming webinar at this time as well. So good morning to you guys on the webinar. We had 35 folks register for the webinar. If you are a non-resident property owner, if you are traveling, if you live in Sea Pines full time and happen to be in wherever, we encourage you to join this meeting via webinar as well, since it is provided. The link to our webinars are on our website and our Facebook page, and we try to get them out as quickly as possible for future meetings so we can get you guys set up if you'd like to join that route. Additionally, fire exits are illuminated. In the case of emergency, please use them. If you're joining in person, please help yourself to coffee and donuts as well. We have a very large agenda today. Very large. I will get us started. We have two special guest speakers, John Rimbold with the Hilton Head Island Airport, and then Matt Randall with Cranston Engineering is also joining us. Those are the folks in addition to our staff presenters. I will go ahead and get us started with my agenda items. I did forget to introduce myself, which is unlike me. My name is Amanda Sutcliffe-Jones. I am the Director of Communications for CSA. So we'll go ahead and get started with my slides. CSA and ASPPPO Board of Director election results. We made this announcement back in December, but this is the first coffee I've had a chance to introduce it to you guys in person too. So just want to congratulate the directors that were selected for the CSA Board of Directors: Barry Barth, Larry Moption, and Rich Spear. 3 directors selected for ASPPPO: Paula Scanlon, Barry Barth, and Paul Crunkleton. Congratulations to those newly seated directors. Their terms began on January 1st, 2019. And we also would like to thank the additional participants or candidates who participated in the elections, as well as to you guys who voted in those elections. So thank you once again. If you had a chance to see it on our website, we have posted the CSA committee member rosters. You see all but one up there, Gate Entry Committee. We're still making some final modifications to that committee roster so that will go back in front of the board for approval at their next March meeting, but the remainder of the 2019 CSA committee rosters have been posted on our website for ease of use. There's an easy link to get to it, seapinesliving.com/2019 CSA rosters. That'll get you to your committee rosters. Save the date. Tomorrow, the town of Hilton Head Island is hosting a workforce housing meeting. It'll be here in the community center. It's at 9 o'clock from 9 to 10. And the town will try to get feedback from our property owners as well as others on the island in separate meetings that they are hosting about workforce housing. So it's a great opportunity to get in front of the town and give your feedback. So we encourage you to attend. It's going to be here at the community center. No reservation or RSVP necessary. Just come as you are, 9 o'clock. Some additional CSA and ASPPPO events. For our March meetings, our Sea Pines Community Coffee will be on March 6th at 9 a.m. Our ASPPPO Board Directors meeting, March 21st at 9 a.m. CSA Board meeting on the 26th of March at 3 p.m. In April, our coffee will be on the 3rd at 9 a.m. And the CSA and ASPPPO annual meetings will be on April 29th from 3 to 5 at the Sea Pines Country Club. A little bit more about that. Staff will be sending you your proxy for the annual meetings for CSA and ASPPPO. If you are a member of ASPPPO, you will receive a proxy as well to be able to participate in that meeting. CSA, you'll be proxied also based on your ownership of property in Sea Pines. So those will be coming to you sometime in March, so be on the lookout for those. At this time, I'd like to welcome John Rimbold. John Rimbold is with the Hilton Head Island Airport, and John's going to give us an update on what's going on over at the airport. So John, welcome. You're welcome. Thanks, guys. All right, so pretty straightforward. Just click on that button and it'll take you where you need to go. Yeah,
all right, sounds good, thanks. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is John Rimbold. I'm with officially a Beaufort County employee, but I spend most of my time here at the airport on Hilton Head Island. I live in the northern part of the county, so I make that joyous commute every day. But I can tell you, it's gorgeous. I've worked for a lot of my career in the southern part of the county, and it's a fantastic drive. It's gotten better, the roads have gotten improved and everything. But what a great way to come to work. To drive. I'm on Ladies Island, so I think I crossed like 8 or 9 bridges. And it's amazing because from the Ospreys to the Bald Eagles to the Egrets to everything, you see it all the way in, and it's fantastic. So got to keep your eyes on the road now more than ever. But it's rewarding. So I'm glad to make that drive, and very happy to be here. I know Sea Pines is a very, very engaged community. I've had a few of my airport board members who have hailed from Sea Pines, so I thank you all for number one being here, number two for your civic engagement. And I want to give you a lot of information about the airport. I'm going to keep it pretty quick because there's probably a few questions out there. So hopefully you can have a chance to ask some of those. And I know you've got a long agenda, so we'll move it along. But as you've probably heard, we've got some new service starting at the airport. This slide shows the first regional jet ever to land at Hilton Head Island Airport. That was on July the 5th. Very exciting event for us. And the results so far with the jet traffic has been fantastic. Has anybody flown the new jet traffic to Charlotte so far? Great. Any comments? Great experience. Everybody love the bigger jets. Yeah. Any first class flyers here? We got that option now, right? It's great. So all of our airlines are going to be configured with first class seating. So if that's something that interests you, you will be able to take advantage of that. Okay, that's a great look at that beautiful airplane. Anybody fly the old turboprops? Yeah, yeah. A good airplane, right? It was a workhorse, but it didn't look as sexy as that guy. So we're glad to have that here. And that airplane is performing very, very well. We did extend the runways. We finished that just before the jets came in. In fact, about 5 days before the jets came in. Plenty of time to spare, right? Nobody was sweating it. We don't work any weekends before that. But a great airplane is performing very well off of that field. So we're super happy to have it. I wish I could have put this in video. One of my construction guys actually filmed this. This is our late night airplane coming in the evening. And the cool thing about this video, it's actually on our Facebook page. You go ahead and search for us. You'll see our logo. You'll know you're on the right page. But as you watch that airplane land, the contrails off the wingtips start to spiral, and they catch a bit of a rainbow color. It's absolutely gorgeous. But the video's on Facebook, so if you want to check it out, take advantage of that. It's really pretty. Okay, into the meat of it right now. You probably have seen that we've made 2 big announcements in the last couple of months, with United announcing in October that they'll be starting service. They're going to be seasonal service, but they'll have twice daily flights to Dulles. So they'll get up to the Washington, D.C. and Northern Virginia area. And then they're going to fly weekend flights Saturdays and Sundays to Chicago O'Hare, and then Saturday flights to Newark. So if you're interested in getting up into the city, that's going to get you very, very close, which is fantastic. And then right after that, or soon after that, Delta, well, I should say immediately after that, American responded and said, well, if United is going to go to Washington, D.C., then we're going to go back to Washington, D.C. as well. And so American brought back the Reagan National flights. So they'll be flying Saturdays and Sundays to Reagan National. So if anybody loved the U.S. Airways flights that used to go in on the weekends, we finally got them back. After that merger, those gate assignments changed and we lost those, but we're happy to have them back. We think that's going to be real popular. And then in December, right before Christmas, I found out that Delta was going to come in too. So I said, well, we'll pack everybody in. We're a small place. We'll pack them all in and make it happen. And so Delta made the announcement on the 9th of January, and they're going to be flying 3 daily flights with year-round service, 3 daily flights to Atlanta, which is fantastic. You can get anywhere in the world from Atlanta. And then they're also going to have seasonal, basically summer service to LaGuardia. And we're real excited about that too, because obviously a response to United going to Newark, Delta said, well, we can get into LaGuardia and get another great New York City airport. So I'm really trying to put the knuckles on American and say, come on, guys, you got to respond, get us into Philly or Boston or something, right? So we're working on it. The Northeast is really a big target for us. So we're really trying to get that going. So I want to tell you, I don't have enough for everybody, but there are some of these cards that I've left by the door that show the route maps, okay? So if you're lucky enough to get one, grab one. If not, you can certainly take a look at our website, which is hiltonheadairport.com, easy to search for. You'll see that logo, it's got the lighthouse in it, right? Fly to the fun. So you'll see that logo on our Facebook page as well as on the website. You're in the right place. That's got all the information. It's got contact information for me and my assistant. So please reach out if you've ever gotten questions. And if you're involved in other civic groups and you want me to come speak, I love to get out and do this. I'm tremendously busy right now, but I still take every advantage I can or opportunity to come out and speak to folks, because you're the ones who are going to be flying these routes. You're the ones who are going to be walking through our facility, and we're really excited to welcome you. If you haven't been through there, now I think we've got a reason to bring you in. So with that, I'd like to take a few questions. I think I had one more slide that might show. Yeah, there's kind of the draft schedule. Again, it's okay if you can't read it because it's all subject to change. You know how that works. But we did put that together, and I can, if anybody wants that via email, you can get in touch. Amanda knows how to get me. If you're in leadership positions and organizations and you'd like that on a PDF that you can send to your membership, I'd be happy to forward that around. So,
and to help as well, CSA can post that as a link on our website, so that might be helpful to property owners as well. So I'll make sure that that is a helpful link that goes out to all.
Thanks.
Absolutely. So I think we have some questions. We'll start up here if that's okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
I have just flown out of Hilton Head early in the morning a couple of times. What about the landscaping and the lighting? The lighting's not good at night or in the dark, and the sidewalk doesn't go all the way to the airport. So I realize that it's kind of dangerous. Do you have any plans to improve the exterior?
We do, and she's not a plant, okay? So the question is, what else are we doing at the airport, right? That was a great question. I appreciate that. Along with all the airfield projects, we're going to be doing some we call landside projects as well coming up. So we've got a project in design right now with a local design firm to start on our campus plan. Now, it's a multi-phase plan, and we'll start, our first phase is out by Beach City Road, so it'll be the entrance. We'll get rid of that old sign. But our thought was with all the communities like Sea Pines and the other resort communities who have upgraded all their entrances and things like that, we need to keep step. So we're doing that. Funding for us is a little bit more challenging because we have to twist a few more arms to get it. But we have been successful to get some phased funding. So the first phase is going to be out there at the entrance. We are going to work on the lighting and stuff because God bless Hilton Head. It is hard to light Hilton Head, right? It is hard. We don't like hurricanes, but Hurricane Matthew did us a few favors in the parking lot, and we're going to try to take advantage of that and open it up a little bit more, right? But we are working on that. We're very sensitive to that. And the other good news is we're going to do a big terminal project. So if you've been in there and you've been squeezed with just the single airline with jet service, wait till this summer. It's really, you're going to get to know your friends and neighbors very, very well. It's going to be close. It's going to be tight. So we are going to expand that terminal. We've got those plans in design stage as well. So we're going to have a nice big new terminal. We'll renovate what's there, and we're going to expand as well. So we will more than double in size with that terminal, and we'll have a better flow of passengers. It'll be kind of one way, so you're not crossing back over yourself. So a lot of updates coming. Yes, ma'am.
What businesses are going into the terminal?
I don't know yet, but that is, again, is a great question. Now that we've got a product to sell, so to speak, right? More people coming through the terminal. There will be business opportunities. So we see concessions being a bigger part of the airport business picture now, and we'll advertise for that, especially once the terminal gets built. But even in the meantime, we're going to have an advertisement go out relatively soon on concessions so that we can serve the folks who will be going through, because we'll have a huge increase.
Looks like a question.
Yes.
Do these aircraft have better operational options in foggy weather?
Fog is kind of hit or miss. It depends how thick it is and how low it is. For example, yesterday we had that fog that kept coming in and going out. But the problem was when it came in so thick and so low that you couldn't even see the runway. So when a pilot can't even see the runway, they can't even take off. Usually they can take off in the bad weather. Sometimes it's tougher to land, but they can get up and out. But when it's that foggy and they can't even see the next light on the runway, they're not permitted to operate. So if we get a lot of that real thick sea fog, it doesn't matter how long we are or what kind of lights we have. If the pilots can't see them, they can't fly. So, when we deal with that maritime layer that comes in till the sun burns it off, we might have some issues, but not very many. I mean, we've had fantastic reliability with these new Embraer jets. For example, in August of 17, American Airlines completed about 87% of their flights, which is not great. In August of this year with the jet service, they completed 99%. The only cancellation was on Charlotte because of a thunderstorm. So we didn't have any on our end. So the reliability is much better, much better. Yes, sir.
We've had the benefit of relatively short TSA issues with Are the schedules such that we're going to now find longer TSA lines, and what should we be expecting, particularly on weekends when you've got lots of airlines coming in?
Again, not a plant here, but I did have something to say about that. So thank you for asking that, sir. I would say treat this airport now as you would any other airport. So you remember the old Hilton Head Island Airport, show up 20, 25 minutes before the flight and you can just kind of zoom through and you're good to go. That will not be the case. I would say follow that 90-minute to 120-minute rule that you use at airports. It won't be that way once a new terminal is built. It won't be that, we'll have a better flow. But currently we are going to be jammed in there. And the tough thing about TSA is they really don't let you get a second checkpoint line until you demonstrate severe and prolonged pain. There's no better way to say it. I'm sorry. There isn't. You have to document. You have to ask them to come in and survey your airport, and they have to observe just, brutal wait times, and then they say, well, we'll study a second line. So it's going to be tough. So go in there, moan and groan, get your 20-minute wait, and I'll start bugging TSA and get that study done. But for the time being, it is going to be, a little bit slow. So I do advise everybody, and if you've been in there, the campus is kind of small. So parking is going to be an issue too in the beginning stages, because we don't have garages, we don't have a ton of property out there. So if you're in the habit of dropping people off, I would encourage you to maintain that habit for a while. And then, of course, once you get in the terminal, it's going to be a little bit tight. It's going to be a little bit slow. So just give yourself some extra time. And I will just tell you, treat it like any other airport, because we're going to be that way.
Well, thank you so much, John. We certainly appreciate you coming out to speak with us this morning. And we will get this information out that you mentioned. Thank you again.
All right. Thank you.
So thank you so much to John. We certainly appreciate that update. Again, he mentioned their Facebook page and their website. We encourage you to visit those locations for more information related to the airport. At this point, we're going to have David Henderson, our Director of Special Projects and Operations, come on up. And David will provide us an update on his agenda items. Take this. Give me just a second to get that.
Thank you, Amanda, and good morning. This is the largest, or one of the largest, coffee crowds that I have ever seen. Awesome to see all the smiling faces, and I was somewhat surprised that the repainting of the Tower Beach water tower would bring out such a crowd, but I'm glad that you're here, and I'll do my best to provide you an update. All right, back to beach and boardwalks. It's been something that's kind of been of topic and of discussion ever since Hurricane Matthew, then of course Irma. But finally, some progress to report. Now, the moratorium is still in place on the rebuilding of beach boardwalks from beach markers 18 to 47. But the beach policy changes have been approved by the trustees, and the legal review of that has been completed. So if you are an oceanfront owner or know an oceanfront owner that is desiring to rebuild one of their damaged or destroyed boardwalks, let them know that that moratorium lifting is somewhat imminent. We will, of course, communicate. We are very close to lifting that. To assist with this process, we have developed a process guide for owners that takes them step by step. You complete one before you go to two, before you go to three. The dunes and the beach is a highly regulated environment. And so there are 4 entities that have to approve new boardwalk construction. So it's the state, OCRM, the town, the ARB, and of course the Forest Preserve Foundation. Going forward, as these boardwalks are significantly repaired or rebuilt, it is going to require the obtainment of an encroachment agreement from the Forest Preserve Foundation. So we're getting all our ducks in a row, and we will have additional information shortly, but we think that we are towards the end of this process. One quick note on that, the other thing that is important, and we do mention this in our guide, is that the dunes have recovered to a point where the moratorium can be lifted. But if you as an owner have flexibility in the timing of when you would put your boardwalk back, our suggestion to you is that you wait as long as you can. You wait as long as you can because the dunes are continuing to change. And changes to the policy will require you, if at a later date dune conditions have changed and your dune boardwalk, which is there to keep foot traffic off of the dune and to protect the dunes, goes to not accomplishing that or to compromise the integrity of the dune system, you'll be required to make those adjustments. And so it is in your interest, if you can wait as these changes continue to occur, to do so. One example of how these changes can occur, and this is not in the moratorium area, but this is down at Tower Beach, is that we saw over time, and if you've been to Tower Beach, you have seen post-Matthew changes to the ends of Boardwalks 13 and 14. And this is a great example of why, if you have the ability to wait to do so, this was not a storm damaged area, but action taken by the town through renourishment, not only in sea pines, but in other places on the island, sand fencing, vegetation has caused conditions to change at Tower Beach. And so what we have found is that these boardwalks, which were installed to best practice at the time, are now compromising the integrity of the dune system. This particular picture is of Boardwalk 14, and as you can see, the end of it just disappears into the dune, which is where we don't want it to be. So we will be raising and extending the ends of Boardwalks 13 and 14, and we will be going out all the way to the seaward toe of the primary dune, which is also one of the new requirements in the policy. The primary dune is still forming in many cases, but as a general rule, and the town will help determine where this point is during their process, but as a general rule, the seaward toe of the primary dune is where the sand fencing ends, as a general rule. So that will be where that dune is forming. You don't want to stop short of that dune and then walk through it. So you must go seaward or on the ocean side of that. This work is expected to begin next week and take approximately 2 to 4 weeks to complete, weather permitting. And one boardwalk will be open throughout this process. So as they work on one and close it, the other one will remain open, and then they will switch. All right, we're going to switch to the Forest Preserve. And as some of you may be aware or have attended previous coffees, we have been doing a lot of post-Matthew cleanup work in our natural treasure. And I'm happy to report that the initial cleanup has just recently been completed. We started in August of 2017 with a salvage harvest operation in the areas where it was appropriate to do so. And it may be difficult for you to see on the screen, but this image, which is a Google image, was taken about a year ago. And you can see those first areas where work started in August of 17, where you can see changes. So it's this block here, it's this block here, and it's this block here. So that was August of 17. In the spring of last year, 2018, we went in and addressed this block over here. So you can't see it on the photo, but the town is shooting new photos now. And when those get published, hopefully you'll be able to see that as well. Late this past year, we used mechanical only, no salvage harvest, mechanical only. And you may have seen this going up and down Greenwood Drive in these two blocks here. So this is behind Lot 1, and this is behind Lot 2. That was done at the end of 2018. Just recently, just in the last few weeks, we completed the last remaining block, which is behind the lakes. So that block is this area in here. So that work's been completed. And so now we're on to the next phase. We have initiated our land management plan. The objective of the land management plan is to view the forest preserve as a single contiguous ecological unit and use established land management practices to promote and maintain habitat and wildlife diversification and multiple outdoor recreation opportunities. Now, I'm sure you're thinking, gee, David, that's really disinteresting. What does that mean? And the best way that I can explain it to you is that if you are attempting to grow something, okay, landscaping in your yard, a vegetable garden, a flower garden, a farmer growing crops, if you are trying to grow something, at its most fundamental, what you are doing is you are taking resources which are finite and trying to assign them or promote them to meet your objectives. So the ultimate source of all of our energy, of course, is the sun. So canopy, sunlight, is something that we are allocating and managing And with some of the work that's been done and some of the reduction in canopy, that is what we were trying to do, to share some of that sun's energy with other materials that were not present or not present to the level that we would like them to be, to encourage them. What are some of the other nutrients that could be limiting? Rainfall, moisture, soil nutrients. So the concept, which is important, is that by our management actions, we are trying to reallocate the use by the habitat and the plants that occur within that habitat of these finite resources to accomplish our management objectives. At the end of the day, we're trying to diversify the habitat. The wildlife will follow, okay? We don't directly manage wildlife populations with rare exception. What we do directly manage are wildlife habitats, and the wildlife will follow. What this photo here is a couple post cleanup operations, and the one on the left, this is actually behind lot 1 where mechanical work was done late last year. And so just a couple things I wanted to point out to you is that, you know, all of the healthy undamaged trees were left, and you will see areas here, for example, where there's a gap. There's a gap in that canopy. There was a tree there because prior to Matthew, our canopy was closed, which is one of the challenges that we had, that there was no sunlight getting down to the mid-story, getting down to the ground cover. It's difficult, again, to see, but what you have is a big root ball right there. And so that was a tree that was blown over that created that gap in the canopy. The machine's able to grind up the tree, but they don't grind up the root balls because it damages the teeth on the machine. So when you see those little gopher mounds out there, that's what those are. Those are the remains of trees that were blown down by the storm. And this work was done late last year, so we're just now getting into the growing season. But I also wanted to point out to you that these saw palmettos here are already starting to come back, okay? They're starting to come back. And in these areas, disturbance has been introduced. So Hurricane Matthew took a pretty good go at it for us and introduced disturbance, okay? Our cleanup operations and our stand improvement operations introduced additional disturbance. The ground's gotten kicked around. You have a seed bank. You have seeds that have been dormant in some cases for decades. You have roots that have been exposed. You have change, you have disturbance, and the habitat responds. The photo on the right, two things I wanted to point out. One are the loblolly pine seedlings. In this 10 square foot area, while I didn't count every single one, in this 10 square foot area, 100 square foot area, 10 by 10, 100 square feet, there are between 100 and 150 loblolly seedings that have popped up. So those seeds have been there for years, and now they can see the sky and they can get their feet in the dirt and off they go. We cannot let that continue if we are to meet our objectives, because remember, resources are finite. So if those trees were even to wrestle amongst themselves and whittle themselves down, they are still going to be stocked at a level that is not consistent with having a diverse habitat. So we will use herbicides. We will, as part of our land management plan, selective use of herbicides to treat those. If you look behind those pines, you will see these brown sweet gums. They have already been treated with herbicides this past fall. Sweet gums are one of the species that are prolific colonizing or early successional species. They sprout aggressively from stumps. If there was a tree that was there before, they will sprout aggressively from roots. They are an early colonizing species. If given the opportunity, they would do what they do best. And you would come back a year or 2 years later, and you couldn't see the proverbial forest for the trees, because all you would be looking at is a dense, dense stand of sweet gum. So that's what we're trying to do with our land management plan. Good save the date. So the Forest Preserve, we have our Party in the Pines coming up on Saturday, April 6th, 4:30 to 7:30 p.m. Wanted to give you all special heads up notice if any of you were able to attend the bonfire that we had this past November, and the food was provided by the Salty Dog, and it was fantastic. The service and the food was incredible. They have agreed to make that contribution again. I have had a sneak peek of the menu, and while I'm not going to give it away because it may be subject to change, it is going to be very, 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 very good. And it's going to be diverse as it was in the fall. This is a $40 ticket, And I dare say at the end of the day, I will challenge you to find a better value with the food offering and the drink offering that you will have, and consider that you attend. All the proceeds do benefit the Forest Preserve. All right, let's talk a little bit about a new project. You may have seen it in the Forest Preserves Foundation solicitation letter that went out this past fall. And we referenced the access, or the vehicular access, utilizing the existing service road on Greenwood Drive. I wanted to give you a little bit of information because there will be some activity over the next few months starting over there, and wanted to let you know what was going on. I wanted to get you oriented with this photo. Here's the Forest Preserve. This is CSA. This is Heritage Farm. This is Lawton Stables, Prep, Montessori, Ball Field, South Island Public Service District plant. This is our CSA maintenance yard. Currently, vehicles come in from the Ocean Gate side. They either come in via Lawton and go in this way, or if they're coming in from the Greenwood Drive side, a lot of them will go down Tupelo and then cut over and get in the Greenwood Drive side. For a variety of reasons, we would like to have them come in from Greenwood Drive. They're not going through a residential area. They don't, in the heat of the summer when the wind is blowing just right, have that welcoming experience that only the sewage treatment plant can provide. And the visibility is much greater. So we are going to utilize the existing service road as the main vehicular entrance as part of this project. Just to give you a couple photos, Greenwood Drive is running here. This is Heritage Farm over here. Leisure Path, this is our service road. So it comes in, comes around, and over here you'll see a power pole. Russell's going to tell you a little bit about a pedestrian bridge. It's under construction as we speak. Where that power pole is the approximate location of that pedestrian bridge. It's important to note that this entrance is currently being used by people to get into the Forest Preserve. That gate that is over the bridge, the service road, there's a lot of service traffic in and out. The gate's open more than it's not, and people have figured that out, and they cut through. Horses, Lawton Stable trail rides. They're directly across the street. They cross right there where they cross, and then they cut across the grass to get to the vehicular bridge that is there. Bicycles coming down the leisure path will do the same thing. Only the visibility currently to the pedestrian bridge is not real good. And if you're not paying attention and you're riding your bicycle with the horses and with the vehicles, everyone is going across that main vehicular bridge to cross the canal. And so all of our conveyances are mixed up. And we're going to try to address with this project some of that. This is the vehicular bridge, very industrial and service like in appearance. It's one lane. It's one lane. It's going to stay that way. But what is being contemplated, and I'll zoom in a little bit, just this is an overall view. A lot going on here. We're going to look a little bit closer at that. That's at the entrance where the service road connects to Greenwood Drive. What I wanted you to see here is that there are a series of gravel pull-offs that will be installed because it is a 1.5 lane wide road. And as the Forest Preserve road is currently, it will allow for cars to see approaching traffic and to get off to the side to allow traffic to pass. So that practice will continue. This is the entrance where the monument sign is, and there's an elevated island there in the median. That will have to be reconfigured because the cars are now coming in from the opposite direction than they are coming in now. So that's a view of the overall project. To zoom in a little bit to what is going on at Greenwood Drive is the existing service road is shown here, the existing service road. There will be a slight change in footprint to that road to allow for better ingress and egress of cars. And so there's a slight change of footprint. So this is the new footprint of the service road here. You can see it's been widened out a little bit here. And that's to allow cars to be able to exit and to enter at the same time. Currently, it's too narrow for that to occur. And then it ties back in. It ties back into the existing service road. Budget allowing, we would like to add a new asphalt 8-foot wide, which is our standard width, leisure path that would connect with the existing leisure path that's there, and then have a better line of sight and better orientation to get to the pedestrian bridge, which Russell will cover here during his segment. Horses will still be using the vehicular bridge. Further down the road, we would like to be able to have the funds to build a separate dedicated equestrian bridge. What we are trying to do here is to separate those conveyances, give the bicycles their place, the vehicles their place, and the horses their place. So that'll be coming in the months ahead. All right, here's what you all came for. Quick question. Has anybody experienced diminished cell coverage the last some months in Sea Pines? Okay, I've seen a few hands. This is likely why. So this is a South Island Public Service District project. Amanda has communicated out some of this information because we have received a few calls. I just wanted to give you, on behalf of South Island PSD, a quick update. Is that they have, South Island PSD has 2 water towers in Sea Pines. They have one that abuts Tower Beach, and then they have one that you can't see that is near the intersection of Lighthouse Road and Plantation Drive. They are repainting those water towers. Both of them have cell antennas on top that had to be removed in order for the repainting to occur. Interesting enough, they're painting both the inside and the outside of the tower. So at Tower Beach, what you see here is a temporary monopole was set up. And during this picture, they were in the process of taking the antennas that were up here and putting them there. And as you can see, that monopole is lower. This project and the monopoles specifically were designed and approved by the carriers. So they did approve it according to South Island PSD. But there has been some people that have had coverage that has been affected by that. At Tower Beach, the repainting has been completed. The repainting of the water tower at Tower Beach has been completed. And while I don't have a schedule, have been told earlier that the intent is then to begin the process of taking the antennas one provider at a time. There are 4 of them at Tower Beach. And there is a certain order that I don't know what the provider order is, but they have to put them in a certain order back on top of the water tower. So 1 to 2 weeks per provider, 4 providers. So in theory, 4 to 8 weeks from now, this project will be completed. And at least on the south end, the cell coverage that you had before should be restored. We then have the issue the one at Plantation and Lighthouse. And while we haven't had a lot of calls, the majority of the calls that we have had have been from folks in the Heritage Woods area, and I suspect that it was that tower that is having more of an impact on them than this tower. The repainting has just recently started on that tower, is expected to be completed by the end of March. There are 3 providers on that tower. So once that painting is completed at the end of March, 1 to 2 weeks per provider, 3 providers to restore the service that's there. South Island Public Service District has advised if you are having specific issues to contact your provider. I've had a lot of owners tell me that they did contact their provider and they said, we don't know anything about it. And I suspect that it was the person that you were talking to as opposed to them not knowing about it. But that is what we have been advised to tell you to do and to let you know that it is, it's temporary. All right, I'd like to end by welcoming Heather Butdorf, who is our new Activities and Events Coordinator. You want to give a wave, Heather? Thank you so much. Heather's been with us 6 weeks, about 6 weeks. So just wanted to introduce you and let you know a little bit about what Heather will be doing. In addition to operating and managing this facility, Heather will also be handling Tower Beach and Fish Island reservations. She'll be assuming some of the paper shredding, wellness bus, AARP safe driving classes, et cetera, that are held here. She's also going to be developing a new line of community programming. And so we're going to start slow and cheap as budget allows. But the intent is to develop programming that you all as a community would be interesting to come here and see. And so you will be seeing some of that get pushed out and communicated to you. If you have any specific topics or ideas that you think that the community would find interesting, and perhaps even more importantly, perhaps somebody who could give that information or make that presentation, I encourage you to reach out to Heather and let her know. But it is our intent to build this as the desire of the community dictates, to have an additional offering here at the community center. And then lastly, Heather will be also assisting me with the community events, both in the Forest Preserve and the other events that CSA does. So with that, I'm finished. I appreciate your time and hope I gave you all the information on the water tower that you were you were looking for. Thank you. Careful not to hit that button because it'll go black.
All right.
It does, just hit it again, and then that's laser if you need the green.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Matt Randall with Cranston Engineering. Cranston Engineering has been in business doing civil engineering and roadway design for over 50 years. I haven't been doing it quite that long, but I've been working here in coastal South Carolina for the last 17 years, and I'm the lead project engineer for Greenwood Drive improvements. Let's go back. So one of the main goals for improving Greenwood Drive was to improve the drainage. Lane construction oversaw and laid over, I think, 1,600 feet of new drainage line. We replaced all the roadway crossings of the deteriorating pipes and improved the grading. As you recall, there was curbing along the road, which caused a lot of standing water, which was not only a safety concern for driving, but also caused the road to deteriorate more quickly. The standing water will infiltrate in and cause the roadway to start to break up. So since the drainage has been installed, we've had a significant amount of rain, and is my understanding and from my observation and from the feedback I've gotten, the drainage has significantly improved and haven't had any issues with that. This slide is showing, obviously, they repaved the project or the roadway. This was not a full reconstruction. It was designed and constructed to South Carolina Department of Transportation standards. But it was a mill and overlay, which basically means they scraped the top layer of asphalt off, which was the deteriorating part, and where sections where the base or underneath the pavement was deteriorated, they would fix those sections, but not replace the entire roadway. If we were to replace the entire roadway, it would have almost double the cost of the project, and I believe they've got estimates of over $4 million for that. So lane construction, this is a picture of them laying asphalt. There were some sections that didn't come out exactly as we had hoped. There were some comments with some areas that were a little more bumpy than expected, and so they actually went and repaved some of those sections. And the second section, or the second picture on your right, is another, I guess, third-party engineer that was contracted with CSA to inspect the roadway. Basically, he came to a very similar conclusion that Cranston came to, is that the roadway was installed per DOT standards. It met all the specifications. Certainly, there were some areas that could potentially have been improved, but they went back and addressed all the concerns that we had. And as of now, the roadway is about 98% complete, and we'll be issuing our certificate of completion. There's still some remaining landscaping that needs to be done that Russell will talk to you about. But the striping has been installed. We also improved many of the intersections. We added turn lanes and proper tapers and stacking. So the roadway is a lot safer to drive, not only from the standing water being removed, but also from an alignment standpoint with the additional turn lanes. The new striping and the reflectors have also just been installed to, I guess, delineate the lanes better at night as well. And here's a picture and a slide of the stamped crosswalk being installed to improve, I guess, the pedestrian visibility at the crossings. So overall, we were very happy with the project. I think it looks great now. Certainly, we're looking to move on to phase 2, probably later at the end of this year. As well as, obviously, you know, there's plans for the first part of Greenwood Drive from Sea Pine Circle to Club Course to be improved at some point as well. I'll be here for questions afterwards, but Russell will talk to you a little bit about the landscaping.
Good morning. How's everyone doing? 2019, hard to believe that where 2018 went. Really appreciate this great turnout today, and I'm sure we have a lot of folks online as well, Amanda, with our webinar. So again, thank you for coming out. These meetings are very, very important for us to get our message out. Now, I would have to argue with David. I would believe that most of you came out today to celebrate this new landscaping that's along Greenwood Drive versus the painting of a water tower at Tower Beach. This is a crucial element of Greenwood Drive reconstruction for us. Obviously, there was a lot of disturbance along the roadway, but we're about 75% complete with the landscaping. This picture doesn't really do it justice. Our contractor is doing a tremendous job out there. I expect to be complete by the early March sometime. And we have thousands and thousands of pieces of plant material going in, new sod, irrigation along the roadway where we did not have irrigation before. So this is a long-term investment in our community to again improve the overall Greenwood corridor. We would hope to extend this landscaping further down Greenwood Drive into what we would call phase 2 and beyond. Is putting planting new trees and shrubs is a huge important aspect of enhancing the community. I know that's a big topic for us when it comes to referendum and so forth, but this project is a perfect example of taking those next steps and really beautifying sea pines for the world to see. Some of our areas that we put a focus to and enhanced are around the trolley entrance and first area that most people see when they're coming into Sea Pines. We're continuing to work down the corridor past Lot 2 and Lot 3, providing new landscaping and buffering these trolley lots from the roadway was one of the main goals of the project. So again, you'll see a lot of new plant material, a lot of new plantings along the corridor. One of the things, and I do apologize for some of the recent traffic delays, we are blowing mulch, 3 very large trucks. We have a couple thousand yards of mulch going out there, but this is an important part of the project, is to make sure that we tamp down any weeds and keeping that moisture in the soil. So that's the reason that we're out there mulching, and it really gives the project a finished look. So we have a ways to go, as I mentioned. Quick photo of some irrigation and plant material being installed. Again, a lot of the plant material is native to the Low Country and specifically Hilton Head. We used a lot of wax myrtle, saw palmettos, and so forth. We tried to stay as native and as indigenous to Hilton Head as we could with this landscaping project, and that will be a project goal moving forward as well for the rest of Greenwood Corridor and beyond. Matt mentioned a update on phase 2. We're still looking at the timing of that. The project would have similar goals to Greenwood Drive phase 1, stabilizing the roadbed, making drainage improvements. There's an area of the leisure trail that has to be rebuilt, as well as some guardrails. Again, we're looking at the timing on this. We have some other projects for this fall. Obviously, a lot of this does come down to budget and timing, so something that we have to look at closer. Deer Island Bridge, an area that most in the community probably don't head down that way, but we've been working down there for the last month or so, rehabbing this bridge and extending its lifespan for the next 10 years. We talk a lot about improving infrastructure in our community. This is a prime example of that. This project was slated to start some time back, but there was significant issues underneath the bridge with some of the structural supports. Our contractor has had to remove, and you can see in some of these photos here, some of the bridge decking. We drove about 30 or 40 new pilings into the water underneath the bridge and installed new structural members in the bridge. I'm expecting completion early March, ahead of schedule. Again, our contractor is doing a tremendous job down there, and it's not an easy job. Some of these structural members, I might have a photo of it, but we actually had to float the structural members and place the members down on these barges, float them underneath the bridge and pull them back up to install them. So one of the goals of the project was to keep at least one lane open at all times to allow the folks in the community to get back in there. And I think we have accomplished that goal and not causing any disruptions of traffic flow. Phase 1 is now complete. We are working on phase 2, which is a little closer to what I would, I guess, the side of further away from the sound. So we're again hoping to have that wrapped up in the next couple weeks. I don't see any reason, unless something turns with the weather, that we can't accomplish that. Lawton Canal, David spent some time talking about the vehicular bridge. This is a project that's been in the queue for some time. We were actually due to work on this last year, but deferred it because of Greenwood Drive and the leisure trail configuration that we had at the time. Our contractor is mobilized on this, and I'm expecting completion in the next 2 weeks. This bridge, when complete, will look similar to the Sea Pines bridges, as it is constructed in the same manner. Interesting enough, the pilings that were in here were only down into the water about 5 or 6 feet. The new pilings that we installed are in 19 feet. So just to give you a sense of, I don't know who built this bridge and when, most likely built without a permit back in the day by possibly the carpentry shop. I can tell you that the new bridge is going to last a long time. Again, another real important topic for us moving forward as a community, investing in the infrastructure of Sea Pines, rehabbing it, and to really give it that lifespan moving forward. The new bridge, again, will look similar to the Sea Pines bridges in that area. So looking forward to its completion. Sea Marsh Bridge, golf course was formerly known as Sea Marsh. This is behind the Plantation Clubhouse. You may not be familiar with this, but CSA does have open space out there. We have a leisure trail that runs from Greenwood Drive back around to Red Maple Road. You could also walk right up to the golf course and clubhouse. I do see people heading that way quite often. At any rate, this bridge is long overdue for a repair. When I first saw this bridge, many of the decking boards were missing and the railings were falling off. We made some temporary repairs, and now this bridge is in the queue for repair this summer across this leisure trail on the golf course. So just want to make everyone aware with that. That will also look similar to the Sea Pines bridges. We're trying to keep everything consistent. So from a maintenance perspective, that we're better positioned to make repairs moving forward. Lighthouse Road resurfacing, repaving has been budgeted and planned for this season. We're beginning to look at the engineering, drainage, and issues like that, but we are looking to schedule this for this fall. That's from Plantation Drive intersection to down to Harbortown, and there's a couple goals of the project, one of which is looking at the intersection and leisure trail crossing at Lighthouse Road and Plantation Drive, looking to move that crosswalk further away from the intersection to improve safety. Also give Kerry Corbett better access to his office. No, right, Kerry? I see Kerry standing there in the background. So. Vine eradication, an important program for us this season. We have been budgeted to start this program. Vines are, as I've mentioned quite often, are engulfing our community in many areas along the main corridors. Vines are suffocating the trees, so we are going to get started with both removal of the vines out of the trees, and then, as David spoke about in the forest preserve, a chemical treatment as well to suppress and control these vines, as cutting alone will not stop them. There's numerous vines out there that are very aggressive and that we need to take action now. Concrete beach walk repairs. These beach walks are in disrepair in many areas, particularly of 15 and concrete beach walks 15 and 16. So a lot, as you can see in that photo, I think that concrete's served its time and needs some replacing. So this is something that we'll be working on through the season. We're going to start with the full replacements, and then there's a few other beach walks that we'll be getting to as well to fix that concrete. We are not making those beach walks any wider at this time. They'll be replaced at the current width. And in the approximate location, there's some that we do have to adjust as their alignment probably doesn't make good sense as they stand. So. Beach boardwalk repairs, David spoke about this at length. Hoping this moratorium will be lifted. We have made our applications to DHEC and our ARB, working on a permit with the town now. These are the boardwalks that were impacted by Hurricane Matthew throughout the community, 5 of which are not there at this time. Our plan is to get started this spring on replacing the boardwalks that are missing or got washed away in Hurricane Matthew. From there, we'll start to replace the boardwalks that need extensions. So most of these boardwalks that we'll be rebuilding are going to be most likely longer than they were before. In many areas that we have a second dune forming on the beach. We were out there with the town last week to look around and see what we need to do. Most cases, these boardwalks will be about 2 feet above grade, no steps, but we'll pitch them on either side, and that will be our goal. We're going to try and avoid putting any handrails on the boardwalks, but there might be 1 or 2 cases that we have to contemplate that. So again, boardwalks 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 29, 31, 32, 33A. Now number 40 was already in our budget for this season as part of the reserve study. So we'll be making repairs to that as well. And this is what the boardwalks will end up looking like. There'll be a what referred to as a toe kick on each side. They'll be 6 feet wide and ramp down and ramp up on either side to cross the dunes. So again, in all those locations I mentioned. Baynard Park, this is a railing that is in disrepair. The opposite side of the road actually has a fishing platform, which we'll be replacing as well as part of the project later this year. I'm in the process now of applying for a permit to OCRM because that pond happens to be saltwater. So we can't just go start working in that area without that permit. But this again will be a project we're taking on later this season. And the railing we plan on installing will be similar to the railing that we put down at Sprung Pond versus what's there now. This is very high maintenance with all the pickets. So again, we're looking to get away with that and streamline our maintenance moving forward. Other projects I just want to make everyone aware of. We'll be resurfacing the Plantation Drive Leisure Trail from Greenwood Drive to Lighthouse Road this season. We also have a couple secondary road projects, resurfacing Audubon Pond Road and Spotted Sandpiper in the queue this year, and we'll work with the property owners on those roads to coordinate the proper time frame for paving. Right now, the asphalt plants are still closed down for rehab, so we're waiting for those to come back online to get our schedules together. We'll be also working around the community, making our typical cutbacks over perennials and spring cleanup, and then mulching and pine straw of open spaces. One of our largest mulching projects will be Plantation Drive starting this week. I have one more slide I wanted to share. This is the famous brick wall down at Lighthouse and Plantation Drive. I'm going to ask everybody's help here. You know, it came up in our staff meeting a few weeks ago. Toby wanted to improve this location. I just can everyone please keep a lookout for me, because I'm not sure what Toby has up his sleeve, but if he's got something that looks like a control tower, please call my office. This guy is out of control. He's putting stuff everywhere. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. McSwain, who does an excellent job with our security in the community. Toby is an excellent partner in our efforts here. So Toby McSwain.
Good morning. I will try to move along quickly because the old saying, the mind can only absorb what the butt can endure. And I know this meeting has gone pretty long this morning. Good news is there's no major issues that we're really tackling right now in the community. Since the first of the year, we have had 2 forcible entry burglaries in the community. One was in the club course area, where it appears both of them probably involved a juvenile. The items that were stolen were really not of any significance. The one near the back gate, they sold the Wi-Fi inside the unit. It was a rental property. There was TVs hanging. There was a lot of other stuff that could have been stolen, but that's what they took out, literally a $25 item. So there has been two. I did get some calls. There was an issue in the club course area that involved, I believe it went directly to the sheriff's office. We were never notified at the security department of a stolen vehicle. That has since been resolved, and it turned out not to be a stolen vehicle at all. But I did get calls where from the burglaries that property owners wanted to know the address of the burglary. From the security department, I'm not going to send you an email and tell you that 41 Lighthouse was broken into. That's not something we do. I should not have to send the community an email to tell you to lock your doors, because that's basically what the telephone call was. We will know so we can make sure we lock everything up. You should be locking stuff up on a regular basis. So you don't need an email from me to tell you to do that. Lock your property. If they're gonna break into it, let's put them to the effort to actually break into the place and not just be wide open. Speeding, still a major concern, especially on Greenwood Drive. We have the electronic message signs out there. We are capturing the data. The speeds have gone. We've had 2 serious incidents, speed related. You've got to slow down. We're writing tickets. There may be someone in the audience that's been the recipient of a blue copy. They're not cheap. So to keep yourself from going to court, please obey the speed limit. I would show you the picture, but this morning, I know not everybody had a good morning, because at least over the last week, my telephone has rang at starting about 5:30 in the morning to around 6 o'clock of property owners being awakened by barking dogs. We are running more dog complaints now than I can find data in sea pines. I'm going to tell you the rules of the road, and it's the state law. It's not CSAs, not a CSA board matter. It's not covenants. It's state law. If your dog is on your property, it can run around till its tongue hangs out. When it leaves your property, it has to be on a leash, not voice commands, not all this other stuff that's made up. If it leaves your property, it has to be on a leash. State law. If your dog goes to the bathroom, and I can't believe that I'm even saying this, but I'm going to, because it is literally a problem that I'm dealing with. You would not wake up in the morning and go to your neighbor's yard and squat down and go to the bathroom. You shouldn't allow your dog to do it either. There's people that live in the community that do not like animals. They do not want your dog on their property, regardless of what happened the last 20 years of how long you lived here. It is state law. It is state law, a county ordinance and a town ordinance. You must pick up behind your dog. Don't go to a CSA common space. Don't go to a common space in the community and let your dog go to the bathroom without picking it up. We're not giving any more warnings anymore. We're going to write you a ticket and we're going to take you to court, because that's the only thing I've got left. They're calling my boss complaining about dogs in their yard. The only last resort I have spoke at this community every month. I don't think there's been a month that I've been here in 6 years that I have not talked about an animal. So your neighbor doesn't want your dog. If you and the neighbor have this agreement where your dog's running back and forth, that's fine. Your dog leaves your property, you are subject to getting a ticket. I don't think I have to say any more else about that. And the tickets are going to about $600 right now. So if it's worth it for you to let your dog, that's what the total is going to be. Okay, moving along. January 29th, the CSA board adopted a new plan, and I think, Amanda, if you'll switch up the beach shuttle program. It was decided by the CSA board on January 29th. There will be a shuttle service for beach goers starting on March 23rd and will run through September the 2nd. There's some Q&As that we've put up here. Who can ride this shuttle service? And that's something I just want to talk about. And this is what was decided by the CSA board. All CSA property owners, Sea Pines property owners, personal guests, and family members, and Sea Pines weekly short-term rental guests. That will be who will be permitted to ride the shuttle. We are going to use an old trolley that we have that we're kind of outfitting. We're taking some seats out to create some storage areas inside the trolley, as well as adding a new rack to the back of the trolley to be able to hold beach gear. Now we're going to play musical lights with this trolley starting March 23rd. We're going to start in lot number 2, which is if you go to the trolley lot up by the Greenwood gate, when you go into the trolley lot, it is the first lot on the right-hand side. We currently plan to man this with an attendant to check for these decals and passes that I just mentioned earlier. We will start in lot 2. We will start March 23rd, and it will run 7 days a week. During the week of the tournament, it moves to lot 6. Everybody's like, where's lot 6? Well, that's across from Lawton Stables. If you're going to where Russell is building the new footbridge going across under the Forest Reserve, it's that vacant power line lot. It's very small, right across the street from the stables. It will move there the week of the tournament. After the tournament's over, it goes back to lot 2 until we can get lot 8 cleaned up from the leftover stuff from the tournament, and then it will eventually move to lot 8 for the remainder of the season. There's some funding stuff that talks about how it's being paid for. Some of it's being paid for out of a $2 increase that's been applied to rental passes that will start March 23rd. We are still working through the accounting of the rental passes. So the passes are currently $15 a pass. It's going to $17 pre-order and $22 at the gate starting March 23rd. Amanda sent out the notification today or yesterday. Yesterday it went out, so there is a full email that talks about this beach shuttle. This is a 1-year trial basis. The resort told us last year that they parked roughly about 100 to 150 cars in the grass spot at Plantation Golf Club. We don't know how many people are actually going to show up to ride this. We're going to keep a tally on it and then reevaluate it at the end of the year. We have ordered 3 brand new trolleys. The email that I've got from Hometown Trolley basically said, we are aware that your Heritage Golf Tournament starts April 15th. We're making every effort to get you your trolleys before your tournament. So I'm really skeptical of whether or not we're going to actually get the new trolleys before the tournament. With the new trolleys and the current schedule that's being proposed, these trolleys are probably going to run with no markings on them, and there's not going to be synchromatics in these trolleys. So you're not going to be able to go to our seapondstrolley.com app and see exactly where the trolley is, because it takes time to install this in. We don't have a break in the season because the current schedule that's being proposed, we're running more times than we did last year. So it'll be red trolleys with no markings on them and no synchromatics inside of them for the season. And lastly, I will just want to mention, normally the month of March, right before the tournament, we have a big brief that we kind of tell you all the changes. There's not a lot of changes to the Heritage from a spectator and a property owner mentioned this year. We're still going to issue your hang tags. Eventually, hopefully, next year, we're going to get away from where you don't have to come to our office to get a hang tag if you live in and around the Harbortown area. We're going to a new plan, but we'll issue the hang tags. The biggest thing that we have, and Amanda, if you will flip that up, is the closure of Baynard Cove Road, or a portion of Baynard Cove Road. What is taking place, if you've been up to the clubhouse during the week of the tournament, on the tennis courts, CBS compound, we call it the CBS compound because there's about 8 or 9 tractor trailers from CBS that used to park on the tennis courts near the clubhouse. We are now moving those CBS tractor trailers to the roadway of Baynard Cove Road. So if you live in and around this area, if you've already gotten a notification from the RBC Heritage about this change, we've been working on it for at least 2 years. Fiber's been run to this location, the shoulder of the road. Amanda, if you'd swept up and put the map up, and it'll kind of show you up in the top. This is a very busy map, I realize, but up in the top, you'll see a 15G down to your left. That's 15 green. That's where Baynard, the section of Baynard Cove that's going to be closed. This is going to start April 10th. Now, roughly about 2 weeks, the week prior and the week of the tournament, there's no vehicle traffic, no foot traffic. During the week of the tournament, if you have a ticket, you can access the golf course from this location, but you can't ride a bicycle and you can't drive a car through there because they're literally taking every inch of the space down there from Turnberry Lane, right at Turnberry, there's going to be a barricade in the roadway that will take you all the way into Plantation. They're covering that entire grassy area out there with the CBS compound. It will be green screen, which means a fence will go up. It'll be screened in green. The light, there will be some lights in the evening, but it's not going to be something where the whole place is completely lit up. It's just enough so that they can see in and around the tractor trailers. That's the biggest change for the tournament, as really from a property owner's perspective. After play is over, you would still be able to drive down Plantation Road. During play, we're going to reduce Plantation Drive extension, which would be from the 15 green back towards Lighthouse, to one-way vehicle traffic going both directions, because the other side of the road is going to be used for golf carts. We're also adding food trucks in this area, so it's something that you've never seen before. If you were out on this section of roadway during the tournament last year, a lot of people, a lot of foot traffic. So they're adding some areas to kind of service those spectators in and around that area. And that was the down and dirty for me. I tried to move through pretty quickly, and then we'll take questions at the end. So thank you so much.
Good morning. I'm Victoria Shanahan. I'm Director of Finance and Administration. It's great to see everybody here today. I promise I will be very brief. Amanda, if we can. We have issued our 7-year plan, and it has been published on our website. I realize that you cannot read this. I don't want you to read it. I only want you to get familiar with what it looks like. It is a forecast. The only thing that has been approved is the 2019 budget, which has been approved by the Board of Directors. The other 6 years are simply a plan. It's based on the reserve study. This plan could change tomorrow. It might even change this afternoon. It might, depending on prices, depending on priorities, depending upon objectives. It could all change. A lot of these projects are roads. If the price of asphalt changes significantly, this will change significantly. But we wanted to put something out there just to give you an idea that we are going forward and we are issuing forecasts. The second slide that I also put on the website, and again, I know you cannot read it, is the details of all these projects, of when each road is scheduled to be repaved, when vehicles are scheduled to be replaced, when trolleys are scheduled to get replaced. So I thought we get a lot of questions, so I said, well, let's go ahead and put it out there, and it's based on the reserve study. We are getting an updated reserve study this year, so like I said, the numbers are going to probably change again, but I'll keep you all updated, and Amanda and I will let you know. There's the link, because I know sometimes it's difficult to find things on our website. So I put it in bright yellow, take a picture, write it down. Okay, it'll be easy to find. Okay, thank you.
That was short and sweet. I'm going to try to do the same, and then we'll take a break between presentations and Q&A, and then come back for questions. Wanted to give a quick update on the proposed referendum, and Amanda, if you can move through. The survey that we did, showed a lot of things to us. It basically said we needed to do some work on the referendum. So we're in the process of developing information to answer the community's top questions. And we've got a lot of questions that we're trying to provide information for. The survey also offered the opportunity for you to ask questions about proposed initial referendum terms. And we're looking through that, but we may be changing some of those terms as well as we read some of the comments as well as the results. And this is one of the ones that really has significantly changed our thoughts on it, which is about the terms reviewed for the real estate transfer fee. We saw right off the bat that 839 folks did not support that. That represents about 30% of those taking the survey. As most of you know, we need to get to 75%. So that's a pretty tough hurdle for us to overcome. So because of that, we've asked the board for direction, and they provided that. And the comments were that increase was too high for the assessment, that the fee should be structured long-term, or comments on is the fee structured long-term, short-term, installments versus lump sum, those kinds of things, and can it be deferred? So we're addressing those things in the assessment, but basically on the real estate transfer fee, because we did not get much support for a real estate transfer fee, we have moved on to try to solve our issues from funding in a different manner. So we've removed the real estate transfer fee. Residential property owner assessment should be a phased increase. We're looking at that. And none of these would start until 2020. So we still have to go back through and look at the needs, because there was a lot of support to address the needs. And the needs are a lot of money. It's a lot of cost. As Victoria just showed, we've got this planned out over time, and we're trying to stick to some commitments on trying to get these things done through our reserve study, as well as through some of our plans. So we're struggling with that, but we are coming back to you with more information on the referendum, what it's going to be like, what you can support, hopefully you can support, and that's really our objective, is to get to something that the community can support at the 75% level. With that, I'd like us to adjourn for about 5 minutes, if that's okay. Take a little break. I know some folks like to leave after this point, and then we'll come back for Q&A, and we've got staff as well as Matt Randall here for questions. Well, we're going to do that, I think, and what it is, even if we don't make it part of the referendum itself. There's a lot of different thoughts on this, but I think that there's value in explaining how transfer fees work, what they're for. Even if we can't get that all wrapped up into this one, it's something that might be done in the future, or it might be something that we add on as an option and see what kind of support we get. Oh yeah. Well, I know. And it's complicated. Okay, so that's one of our challenges. Is one of the biggest advices we're getting from consultants on these things, and our own experience on these things, is keep it simple. Well, real estate transfer fees complicates things. It really does. The language in the amendment really gets to be complex. You have these exceptions. You have to apply what these exceptions are for. It's just a challenge from a communications perspective to build support at that level of 75%. We've got 50% that support it today. I've got 30% that said no. And that, so. Oh yeah, I think we have to do that through this process. Absolutely. Oh yeah, we're going to do those things. We're going to do all those things. Yes. Right. Yes. Oh yeah, I'm ready to get together and try to figure it as soon as you guys are ready to do that. But I think these kinds of points that we're trying to work through. Now, I can't tell you that the board will change its mind, because they do that a lot. So, but right now, this is what we know. This is what the community has said. This is kind of our response, and we're working through it. We may not be able to get to the numbers without it things. So, then you have the options of what you can do and what you can't do, and should we go forward and try it or not. All of those determinations have to be made. Yes. Yes. Oh, that's our number one communication is the issues, the need. Oh yeah. That absolutely. You know, the primary focus that we're trying to get at now is continued communication because we got a lot of feedback on that in the survey. First of all, there was a lot of awareness of the issues, okay, a lot, but there were a lot of questions on those issues as well. So we're addressing those questions related to the needs, specifically in a brochure that we can send out to all properties, and to build awareness about those things and to answer those questions. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, we're getting, as we look more at ourselves, we know more about this, and it isn't the way we would like it. You know, so some of these things are really fundamental. You know, they're just basic stuff. It's not trying to, well, the dogs. Yeah. Okay, if we could grab our seats, we'll get started with Q&A. Well, that was effective. Okay, everybody, get your coffee. We're going to start back in a couple minutes. That's all right. Okay, quick reminder. We have Amanda and I believe David, is that correct? Or it's going to be coming around with microphones? We're going to get started here. Just a quick reminder to anybody addressing questions, staff members, Toby, Russell, Victoria, please come. If you do have questions about topics, please come to the microphone and to the podium. We're on webinar, so we're going to get, we want to make sure those folks are able to hear you and see you as well.
Just a reminder to our participants joining via webinar, at this time the questions opportunity has now appeared on your screen. If you're joining via desktop, it'll appear this way. You can just type your question and it'll come into my laptop and we will announce the questions. Please identify yourself. Please try to, as clearly as possible, make not general statements, but an actual question so I can ask it to the presenter on your behalf. And for those in the audience, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself so we can know who's making the question, that would certainly be appreciated as well. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and open the Q&A.
Okay, questions? Sue, first up.
Sue Emke. I have actually a number of questions. They should be short and easy to answer. First thing is the seawall. What is happening with that action by, I think it's the state or somebody?
The seawall, if you're talking about piping Plover,
yes,
I think it's complete. Correct, David?
Right.
Do they have any additional items going on down there?
Has it? Okay.
Thanks, David.
Construction, Sue, has been completed. There were some adjustments to the sand fencing that needed to be made that have been made, that was put up. There's a little bit of vegetation with one of the 5 homes that is going to be going in shortly. I had indirectly heard that there were some potential questions related to OCRM and their permitting process, but I'm not privy to those discussions, and I can't really give you an update on where it is or isn't.
Okay. Stay there. Who is paying for all of, I mean, I've looked at, lot 1 and lot 2, and it's wide open right now. Isn't that land, that's not part of the land that we own? Doesn't the resort own that land?
The resort is the primary landowner in the forest preserve. So the foundation owns 90 acres that has been identified. There is a long-term lease on several hundred additional acres that the foundation has. And then there is some additional acreage that is owned by the resort. So your question as to who owns the land at a particular spot will vary, just because it just depends specifically where you are.
Behind lot 1 and 2.
Yes, that would be land that is owned by the resort.
And who is paying for clearing it up?
There was some revenue from the timber, which occurred primarily on resort property. And so all of those, every penny of those proceeds went to help offset the cost for that cleanup work that's been done. But the balance of that work has been funded through the Hurricane Matthew assessment.
Okay. And then you can leave. For the Heather Butdorf, everybody might want to know, what is the phone number here for someone that does want to schedule something?
It's 843-671-3299, and Heather's email is spcommunitycenter@csacpines.com.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I just told Russell, it's the intersection, and this is from a club course perspective. I was not here. I was on vacation when you put in 2 exit lanes. And I agree with many of the comments that are being made. It is dangerous now, really from both sides. If I'm making a left turn from Club Course onto Greenwood and I've got a pickup truck next to me, I cannot see traffic that is coming and turning onto Club Course, and I can get T-boned or something if I'm foolish enough to pull out, which I'm not, but some people are in a rush. And I have noticed that people now coming to make the right turn onto Club Course Drive, they're running over the edging, the concrete curbing, because they cannot make it.
I'll let Matt and Russell talk to the design and what we've done there and what we still have to do there.
And okay.
So on the right-hand turn movement, we had an acceleration lane, so the car should not be stopped for a long period of time if I'm understanding you correctly, coming off of Club Course, turning right onto Greenwood.
They are stopped for just as long as it was before. In other words, they cannot make the right turn even though there is they do not make the right turn acceleration lane because there is traffic coming in constantly. I mean, that's a bad it's gotten worse, actually, that intersection now, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I mean, I guess we hear varying opinions. It's certainly designed to have the stacking and the tapers per the volume of traffic, as South Carolina Department of Transportation would, even though it's not an SCDOT road by any means, but we did try to design it and did design it to those standards. And so there's additional stacking for more cars to wait there, and then to have the acceleration lane. So the intent is for the right-hand vehicles to be able to make that right-hand turn much easier now and have their own lane to accelerate and then merge into traffic. But as we know, that doesn't always happen.
That's not happening. And Brett, the last one, of course.
Let me mention something else on that. While we were doing construction, we put in fiber to that intersection so that we can put cameras down there, just so one of the concerns that we had when we did the design is traffic coming in, and for future access is traffic coming in through the gate and merging onto Greenwood Drive, okay, and being able to get out of Club Course. and to safely get out of club course. So what we've installed is fiber so we can put a camera at that intersection and observe the intersection at the gate. And if we have, I always use the example of Rotary. If we have a Rotary event or we just have some unusual volume coming out of that, we wanted to make sure that the officers at the gate were aware of that and they could stop or slow traffic and allow vehicles out. So that's also should help to mitigate some of that. But I'm certainly also interested in talking, Sue, more about the perspectives you have and maybe going out there and taking a look at that, because I'm not sure I fully understand it, but see if there's some things we can do. Okay.
And my last one is will there be a sunset provision in the referendum?
That's under discussion.
Okay.
It's not in the set right now. So, gentleman in the back.
Yes, Ed Warner, Club Course. As a follow-up, and I've already talked to Russell, when you're coming out of Club Course and trying to make the left-hand turn, the landscapers coming in with their pickups and long trailers are not able to make that turn. They are actually coming into the left-hand turn, or if there's a car there, they're running on the curb, which down the road, they'll end up breaking the curb. Just the other day, I witnessed an 18-wheeler trying to make the corner and had to wait for cars to get out. So from my construction experience, I think the right-hand turn coming in, I think that is on the marginal side. Now, up north where I came from in construction, that had to be a minimum of 40 feet. We're way shy of 40 feet. So, and I've talked to Russell, he can tell you we've had conversations trying to give my expertise and some comments. I think that needs to be addressed and looked at. And if you put the cameras in, then you'd have the detail and data,
right,
and
right.
everyone would be able to, you could show it here and everyone would see what the issue is.
Right. Thank you. Did you guys want to address anything there or not? Okay. Gentleman right here. We're working our way across.
Thank you. My name is Steve Kite. I have a jurisdictional question, I guess, between CSA, perhaps an ARB. There is a property on North Sea Pines Drive, I think it's number 127, that was sold sometime last summer and has been empty and abandoned since I think the new owner started taking it apart piece by piece, and the roof has kind of caved in and it's just been sitting there. It looks like something in the middle of a slum. And I talked a couple of times to Ken at the ARB, and he says there's nothing that they can do. Is there anything CSA can do about it? Because it just really just looks awful.
Yeah, I know the property you're talking about. I'm not sure of the status. I know Dick's here. Dick, are you aware of the property? Yeah, I just don't have what the status is of that property. The land use monitor would be contacting anybody who's in disrepair and talking to them about bringing their property into repair. But we have a long process.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they mean to knock it down and build a new house. I think they were before the ARB for a new single family that's just sitting there.
Right. Well, they'll have to go through the application process for the ARB, get their designs approved, all of those kinds of things. I don't know if they're renovating or what they may be doing with that property, but we are aware of the property there, and it's somewhat, it has changed hands. Actually, we had lots of issues with that property prior to the change of hands, and seem to be continuing with some of those at this point. So, we're working through with the owner as well as with the ARB, whatever they would want to do. And then again, the land use monitor will be contacting them about conditions. But again, I don't have the status of that today.
Okay, thank you.
Let's go to Mike.
Hi, Brett.
Hi, Mike.
With regard to the referendum, is there any qualitative information coming out of the survey that would indicate why property owners would rather tax themselves every year than kick that down the road to a new owner that would buy and through a transfer fee?
Yes, and we're, as I said, the qualitative, if you will, or the verbatim kind of comments, we're trying to aggregate and see what percentages of those that said no might be related to not understanding or personal preferences, those kinds of things. We do know just from anecdotal perspective that the assessment increase was about 200 or so property owners less that were opposed to an assessment increase versus this. And as you know, Mike, we're in the numbers game at 75%. Sure. Right. So if we're at 80% supporting an assessment of some sort, not necessarily the one we've presented, but an assessment of some sort, and we're at only 70% supporting a transfer fee, we've got a challenge in those numbers, and that's why we've kind of looked at how we can change this and make it more appealing for people.
Yeah. Has anybody surveyed realtors that do a lot of sales activity in Sea Pines as to what impact might have on sales prices and so forth?
Yeah, we haven't surveyed them, but we have had a meeting to discuss the referendum terms. We did not get a lot of participation, I can tell you, from the realtors on that. And I think, I've certainly had one-on-one conversations with them, and they're back and forth and in different positions. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only possible thing I could see that would affect people's view of that, was it might affect resale values, but there's very few places on Hilton Head that you can buy a home that doesn't have a transfer fee right now, except Sea Pines.
Understood. Okay, Rosemary, then we'll go to Fritz.
I keep hearing about the real estate transfer fee, and the realtors tell me that the buyer pays this fee. Who does? Who is responsible for this fee when you sell your house?
It's dependent on the language in the amendment, but the amendment, draft language would say that the buyer pays this fee. And that's pretty consistent with what's out there in most communities.
Thank you.
Okay.
Frederick Smith. I'm president of the South Beach Villas regime, which has nothing to do with what I'm going to say. As you know, I've been an outstanding critic of Greenwood Drive and the paving project that was done there. And last week on the 7th, I was afforded a meeting with Russell and Matt and his. I was afforded the opportunity to meet with Russell, Matt from Cranston, one of his people from Cranston, the second set of eyes from Thompson Engineering, and Jason Farrell from Blythe Construction, which is now the owner of Lane. And we talked through the project of Greenwood Drive. It became very clear to me that it was a sewer project that happened to have paving on it. And the paving was not the major reason for the project. And you can shake your head, Matt, all you want. But the truth of the matter is, it was not built to South Carolina DOT standards. That was said in the meeting. The only thing built to South Carolina's DOT standards on the paving was that they had a paving contractor with a paver and rollers, and they made the asphalt in an asphalt plant. And it was the road rolls, it's bumpy, and it does not meet smoothness standards, but it doesn't have to, because it's a 35-mile-an-hour road and not a 45-mile-an-hour road like the rules of South Carolina. I was satisfied when I left the meeting that I got all my answers and everything was done, but I can't let the people here be told that that was made to South Carolina standards, because it wasn't. It's a private job, and that was the answer we got at the meeting. And Russell or Matt can come up and speak to that, but that was how I left there. It's not that it's a bad job, it's just a private job.
So I'm not sure, I guess maybe the road was designed and the specifications were to SCDOT standards. It is not an SCDOT road. It is a private road, so it did not have to be, but it was. And as you stated, there are no smoothness specifications for roads under 45 miles an hour. We discussed that. Certainly the intersection that y'all were discussing, is it a transition? There's been talk about, obviously you all know of the new pass and gate configuration. So that intersection will be addressed with the channelizing islands before that as well. So it was not a full reconstruction. In order to get the entirety of all of to fully correct all the smoothness, it would have to done in a full reconstruction of the roadway, which would have doubled the cost Terracon was the geotechnical engineer that did the geotechnical study 2 years ago. They made recommendations that the subbase was in good shape, that would not have been, that the cost benefit would not have made sense to redo the entire roadway. That was the decision that was made. Certainly it's unfortunate that some people think it is too bumpy. But even as it is now, I think we talked about the speeds that people are driving on it, and it is causing really for them to feel a lot more of those bumps. If everyone drove 35 miles an hour on it as the speed limit, I think it would be just like any other road you drive down in on the island and in the area.
Thank you. I just want to point out it's probably a matter of semantics, but along the way it was said there was subbase stabilization. That's not true. Along the way, you didn't do anything to the subgrade at all. It was Terracon said it was fine. And at the end of the day, the second set of eyes they put on the project, Thompson Engineering, I asked him point blank, how do you value this road? And you all heard him in the meeting. He said, I'd give it a B- or a C.
That's correct. His opinion was that the construction of the road for the finishes of the pavement itself was potentially a B- or a C. He's seen worse, he's seen better. In my opinion, I'd give it a solid B. Obviously, in every job, there's areas that you could, in hindsight, have done things maybe slightly different. I think something that we've talked about already is having a smoothness test done prior to construction starting, so you can have some data to show that how much you've improved the roadway. All those things add costs, but again, it's a cost benefit that we think going forward would obviously help everyone in the community. So.
All right, I'll let it go.
Okay, gentleman here.
Bob Johnson, Club Course. Not to beat a dead horse, but I have two specific questions about the road. One, when you're coming off of Governor's Road and making a left turn, there's a tree with a red band around it. It's been there for a long time. I'm wondering if that's going to come down. And then I have a drainage question. To the answer on that tree, the answer is yes. One of the issues with that tree is it's obstructing sight line. So it was identified as a safety issue for us. We just received approval from the town of Hilton Head. As we all know, we have to go through a process. Just received that last week. We're just going to try and schedule the work at the appropriate time so we're not disrupting traffic. So, and we have, just to let you know, there is some issues with the tree itself. There is some decay. Also, the tree has a very hard lean. And as we know with the town, we will be mitigating for the removal of the tree by planting. In fact, we have done a lot of planting on Greenwood Drive already that will help us in terms of the mitigation. So, yes, sir. Thank you. Sure. The other specific question involves drainage. I do a lot of walking on the path near parking lot number 2. There's a drainage ditch behind Shell Ring Road. And you put in new pipes just west of where you go into the Shell Ring entrance. And there's water there all the time. So how is that an improvement? Because there wasn't water before the project. You're talking about the small ditch that's behind Lot 2. There was water in that ditch. When I walked there since 2003. The ditch was mostly full with debris, woody material. That's why the water was not seen. The water has always run through that ditch from the existing piping that was on Greenwood Drive, that crossed Greenwood Drive from Lot 3 to Lot 2. That, I think it was a 40 some odd inch pipe that we took out and replaced it with a brand new concrete pipe. But that existing drainage pattern has not changed. The only thing that we did do, what you're talking about, is upstream or closer to the gate, there's a new pipe crossing into that lagoon. That lagoon does not connect back into the ditch you're describing. So what you're saying is that water will remain there, so you're going to spray for mosquitoes? We would, as we do throughout the community. Sea pines, as we all know, is essentially almost at 5-6 feet above sea level. Most of these drainage ditches are at grade, meaning there's not much pitch at all. Most of our ditches throughout sea pines, a good amount of them are tidal, a good amount of them are not. There's also a lot of dry swales that now have water, and we've had Granted, the recent week or two has dried out, but we've had well over 16 inches of rainfall since probably about November. These ditches will dry out in the summer, but our intention is, as we do every year, we're spraying on a weekly basis throughout the entire community. So hope that answers your question. Christopher.
Thank you. Christopher Cliff. Russell, not wishing to thrash a dying horse, but in support of Bob Johnson, I cycle down that path at least once a day, actually. And where he's talking about is the water collecting at the end of Lot 2, just before you. Now, I've been doing this since 2001, and I support Bob, I'm sorry to say. There never has been water collected there. And that water has only been collecting there since the new drainage was put in. And Patricia, if she was here, would tell you the same. And the rainfall in the last few weeks has been pretty low. And that water is now beginning to look stagnant. And since you completed the road, you put in another French drainage, we call it in UK, just there. And you've covered that, you've covered it with dirt. But I'm awfully sorry, but the problem of the collecting water, even during low rainfall, is still quite pronounced. Bob's quite right. That is a new lagoon developing there.
So during this project, obviously, all the existing ditches were cleaned out, and in low areas over time, they're going to silt in, as this probably will if it's not properly maintained. I mean, we can't lower the water table, so we're stuck. There was water ponding on the roads. It's a lot better to have it ponding in the ditches. I know it's not ideal, but I mean, we have to keep things very flat here in the low country. It's not like in the upstate or where there's a lot of elevation change. We're basically at sea level. The good thing is the soils are very good here on the island. They're very sandy. The water should infiltrate in, but when you get close to that water table and you're bringing water in roadside swales over a long distance, then you're going to get to a lower point, and that's probably where that was, and it probably was silted in for a long time, and that's why there wasn't originally water there, but water wasn't conveying how it should either. So at the end of the day, would much rather have water off the roadways in the ditches, and that ditch that goes behind the trolley lot, I think, has always had water in it as well, and that's what it's connected to. And so now that it's cleaned out, the water is there as well.
Matt, I'm sorry, that's gobbledygook. The drainage ditch that runs along Lot 2 has always had water in it.
Right.
Okay. You had a team that spent about 3 weeks, or Russell had a team, cleaning that out.
Correct.
And the debris they pulled out was amazing. I saw it all. Okay. Where I'm talking about is where the bike path exits Lot 2, and that never has had water there.
But that's connected to that ditch you're talking about, correct?
You're quite right. That bit we're on agreement. It meant to drain in that ditch. Matt, it's not draining. It's sitting there and it's accumulating and it's getting deeper and it's getting more and more ugly, and it's going to be a breeding ground for all sorts of nasty things. So why don't we just sort of agree it's there and do something about it?
What would you propose to do about it?
I'm not an engineer.
Right, and I can't lower the water.
Ask Ward Kirby, he's an expert on drainage.
I'm an expert on drainage actually as well. And so when you clear out and clean up the existing ditches and connect them, that interconnects everything, it let water flow. Water goes to the low points. It's very flat, so now that it's connected, if there's already water in that ditch, there's going to be mosquitoes in that ditch, or that's going to be treated too. It's all the same water. Unfortunately, it is closer to the road there, but that is the path for the water to convey to eventually drain.
So what you're saying, Matt, in short, is the drain that comes under the road and into that ditch, the elevation's not right. In other words, the water should be dropping down. Is that what you're saying?
There's no way to make water go below sea level, so it's not. No. It's not right.
No, I understand that, but that drain, there's a huge drain being inserted that comes under.
No, there's a water. There's plenty. Like all the lagoons that you see have pipes in them as well, and they're underwater. I mean, water conveys, water flows freely through the ponds. So.
Okay, fine. You're the engineer. All I'm saying is that Bob's quite right. There never was water congregating there and stagnating. It's now there, and it's been there every day, come rain or dry. Okay, that's what I'm
Right,
saying.
and probably the reason is it's connected to that ditch where there was also always water there, and that's where it was always supposed to go.
We have a few questions from the webinar, Brett.
Oh,
as
let's do a
well.
couple from the webinar, then we'll go to the gentleman in the back.
Okay, so question from, let's go down a little bit, Arnold Bressler. The question is actually to Russell. Are there any plans to improve the safety of the leisure trail crossing of the major roads like Greenwood and Lighthouse Drive? So leisure trails crossing safety question.
Greenwood and Lighthouse. Fraser Circle, there's no plans in the queue to change. That was just rehabbed a couple of years ago at Fraser Circle, and the leisure trails were moved away from the circle itself. As I mentioned earlier, we're looking at Plantation Drive and Lighthouse to move that crosswalk closer to Sea Pine Center here to improve that safety. That's one of our big projects for the season. So hope that answers the question.
I think so. Thank you so much, Russell. Next question is from property owner Ted Levitt. Do leash laws apply on the beach? The signs seem to also mention voice control. He's asking that on behalf of property owner Sherry Smith. Question for Toby.
The town of Hilton Head has a leash law for the beach. It appears that it's in conflict with state law, but I don't police the beach, that section of it, but there is times that you can allow the dog off the leash to be under voice command under the current town ordinance. What I'm speaking to is private property in Sea Pines. The state law does apply. If the dog leaves the property, it is required to be on a leash.
The gentleman in the back, then we'll come up here, then we'll go over to Terry.
Yeah, Robert Quinn. I'm a 40-year non-resident property owner. And as I understand it, there are 6,000 property owners in Sea Pines. And approximately half of them are like me, non-resident property owners. And I've become a little bit more involved in recent times, spend more time here and getting more involved. I think I make almost a blanket statement that non-resident property owners are totally unaware of all the things that you people are have going on and have done, which is very impressive. Okay, and I'm here 40 years, and I'm basically been ignorant. Okay, and I think they're the key to the referendum. You got 800 people objected to something. That's 800 out of 6,000. There are 3,000 people out there that are not aware of what's going on and how important this is to the future of the viability of the island, whether they're rental properties or not. Your second observation is everything seems to be biased towards the residential property owners. The residential property owners, let's say they're 3,000. They contribute $3 million of our $10 million budget. The rest comes from non-residents, day passes, commercial and resort interests, forgetting the fact that the non-residents pay millions of dollars in school taxes. Anyway, so because of social media and all the rest of the stuff, they're more activists. You have to get to the non-resident property owners if you have a chance, a prayer in hell of getting this referendum passed. That's a suggestion. The second is a question. As I'm on the gate configuration committee, as I understand it, the use of the shop center park gallery shops for gate pass issuance is dependent upon the success of the referendum, and I'm not sure if that's clear to the general public. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's go up here. Gentleman in the blue shirt first, right here.
Tammy and Bill Graves at 74 Shellring. And we also wrote a letter or called in last week about the stagnation of water right behind our home on our deck, which we're very familiar with, had not received a call back about it. And then I feel like we've been fairly well dismissed that that's not a serious issue. And we really don't know how much water has been there all these years. And there hasn't been water. It's immediately behind our house. And now It is full, sitting, stagnant water. We photographed it yesterday. And I'm really glad that Russell's coming out tomorrow, but I feel like you guys are saying nothing can be done. There's always been water in there, and we've lived there. We simply know this is not true. He's being very polite, calling this gobbledygook. We've been, dismissed, and it is a very serious issue for us who live on that channel of water.
Yeah, we spoke in the beginning that ditch has been here in Sea Pines a long time. There might not have been water to the surface that you were seeing. That ditch was completely full of debris. That ditch is interconnected into the drainage system from Greenwood Drive, as I stated, to Carolina Place. I've spoken to the president of Carolina Place. There's lagoons in Carolina Place that also regulate water flow. So, the height of those lagoons is not something that I set. But at any rate, that the water comes off of Greenwood through that ditch back into the lagoons in Carolina Place, back into the forest preserve. It's all interconnected. And as Matt said, there's water in the water table that we can't control. With that being said, I'm happy to take a look. I'm not sure there's anything more that we could really do in that instance. There's water throughout Sea Pines sitting in ditches. This is the way we're at essentially 5 feet of sea level. Most of these ditches are reasonably flat, or maybe 1 or 2% pitch in most cases. Greenwood Drive was absolutely, from a drainage perspective, not working before this project. Water was going up 3/4 mile up the road, all the way back. We did not change the drainage configuration in that location. The drainage comes across from the opposite side of the road, the lot 3. That's how it's always flowed into the ditch you're describing.
And I understand. I just think that what we did to benefit our whole community should not be such a disadvantage to individual property owners.
Again, that ditch, and as I said, there's a 36-inch pipe that goes under. I don't know which home it is in Carolina Place. It's probably been there for 50 some odd years. It's integral to the drainage system. It interconnects Greenwood with those lagoons. That's how the drainage was laid out. We're not looking to change that drainage flow, but happy to take a look and see what else can be done. I don't know standing here, I don't know if there's another answer.
So with any change, we have challenges and we need to address them. I mean, I don't know what the solutions are, but if we create something, let's take a look at it and see if there's something that can be done. I mean, it's really that simple. And if there is something, we'll see what we can do. If it's expensive, that has to be considered. If it's not, let's try to figure out something that will work and continue to let us know about it so that we can try to address it. I talked about the crossing at off lot 2. I think I started calling Russell about that as soon as Greenwood Drive opened and what we were doing, and we've done some things to improve it, but it's not what I would like to see driving down Greenwood Drive. I'm sure folks seeing the same kinds of things in their neighborhoods. So I don't have a solution for you today, but I don't want you to think that we're not going to listen and try to figure out how we can accommodate this. Okay, you bet. Larry?
Well, Larry Machuda. I have just a couple of comments. Brett, one, I think you said regarding the transfer fee that it's in the contract that the seller or the buyer pays. Did I hear that correct?
The amendment that we had a draft of, yeah, but we're testing the waters. But the thought process and what I see in most amendments is it goes to the buyer side. So the price is negotiated and then it appears on your closing sheet as a cost to the buyer.
Right, and I'm not a real estate person, so I don't know, but that stuff is always negotiated. Okay. Sure. Secondly,
understood.
Your comment regarding the let the guy down the road pay. Well, I think that's not looking very forward. Okay, I didn't point to you. I've got a comment for you too. Okay, but okay, regarding that, the idea of just kick it down the road. Okay, well, just think about it. I think you have to understand what the implications are, and I'm not far against necessarily. I'm not saying that. You have to understand what it's for, where the money goes, and what is going to happen in the future. Secondly, yes, kick it down the road. Well, if you intend to own that property for your lifetime, it goes to your heirs. They have to deal with it. So it's just not one of these things, well, let's just kick it down the road. There's a lot more stuff in it that you have to consider besides just who pays and when it gets paid.
What you're going to see is you're going to see a higher assessment if you don't have a grant.
Well,
let's keep it to questions for the staff instead of conversation in the audience.
Right. Well,
please. I mean, I'm happy to talk to whatever, Larry, but I don't think what we're doing here is going to move us forward.
The problem with it, Brett, is that stuff gets out there, statements are made, and then there's no.
I'm really well aware of statements being made.
But just one other comment. Okay, as far as assessments, is maybe it's a good thing and it can end at some point in time. Regarding the non-resident, I agree 100% with you. I think one of the problems is that non-residents they don't care, or they don't seem to be concerned much about things. And I think, yes, you want certain things, but you should be living down here more often and live and breathe what's going on, and then you'd understand. The problem with non-residential people, they don't really live here. They don't really understand.
Okay, let's wrap it up.
Okay.
Yeah, I am a non-resident and I spend a lot of time here, so I don't appreciate that comment. This is a question relating to the beach trolley. And I am simply going to quote from Ted Levitt's page on this, because Ted had a question that I told him I would ask since I was going to be here as a non-resident. I'm going to start off with a comment that was in response to the beach trolley issue that Beverly Sorrell made. She said, if I can find this, the most impacted guests will be those with elderly and infant toddlers in tow and staying in homes and villas in Harbor Town, Club Course, Carolina Place, Scattered Streets, and Planard Wood. So the idea that you're impacting elderly and infants and toddlers in tow, to me, is a little troublesome. The next thing that came up, and this was a comment of Ted's, was that the divisiveness, the fact that those who rent through Sea Pines Resort are excluded from this fee, or the original $15 fee, exacerbates the divisive nature of this action. So with those two comments in mind, one from Beverly and one from Ted, Ted's question, which I'm just repeating verbatim that I would like an answer to, is given the beach trolley effort is a trial, can someone inform us as to the specific objectives, metrics, and methodology to determine the success or failure and the implications of that determination? Most specifically, will the trial measure the number and types of users? And along that lines, I'd like to know if I didn't even introduce myself. I'm Terry Weiss. I'm on Ridgewood Lane. I would also like to know who is going to be determining which property owners or which property renters are going to be there. How are they going to know that somebody from my house isn't renting through Sea Pines Resort and somebody from someone else's house is? Are they going to get the addresses? How is all this going to be done?
Okay, let me see if I can cover this. As far as the entrance into the lots, each of the passes are different. You're correct. Sea Pines Resort does not pay the fee for the weekly rental pass that, say, a property owner pays for their guest. Sea Pines Resort passes are marked different. They're blue in color, but they say resort pass on them. It's a different marked pass. If you rent your home out, your pass says something else. So the attendant at the lot, we are going to take notes and try to determine who is using it. Was it a property owner that came here? Was it a short-term rental that used it? We're trying to keep who is in fact riding this trolley from the lots in. As far as the matrix to decide of whether the program works or not, I think would go back to the short-term rental committee based on the numbers that we're running. How many people are we moving a day? It's running 7 days a week starting March 23rd. I think we had discussed this of not running it on a check-in day because we didn't think it would be that busy, but the decision was made to run it 7 days a week. So we're going to write the numbers, and at the end of it, I'll give the status to the short-term rental committee, and I guess they'd make a decision to bring it to the CSA board. Did I cover? Say that again now. Well, the program is going to run from 9 to 5. So, well, no, the lot would remain open, so that say if a property owner in late evening wanted to, if we had someone show up or you had a trailer or something, whatever, we do use those lots to be able to store stuff overnight, but it wouldn't necessarily be closed off. Once we start at 9 o'clock in the morning with the attendant there, they're going to check passes at the entrance to the lot before they allow the person to park. So if you're a day tripper coming to get on the 4 o'clock shuttle to go to Harbortown, you got to park over in lot 1. You're not going to be able to park in lot 2. So it would be manned, and we would only allow those people on those trolleys, because now we're moving 2 trolleys from that location starting at 4 o'clock. So.
Do you have a webinar? No? Okay.
If a person buys a $22 week pass, okay, if you rent your property and you say, I don't want to send passes to a pass to this person, I don't want to spend the 55-cent stamp nor send it, just buy a $22 pass at the gate for the week. What does that pass say?
I knew you were going to ask me that. It says something different. I think it says weekly renter on it is what that pass when it prints out. So when you redeem the voucher at the gate and they hit the button, it calculates 7 days from the date that you
tell the gate fellow that you want a weekly renter pass for $22.
Yes.
And they have no way of checking that, and then nobody knows who you are once you have that pass.
There's currently 1,861 short-term rental properties. We can't pull up a name that Mrs. Jones is renting.
No, I understand, but
we're taking their word for it that you're a weekly renter guest is what it basically boils down to. Because there is 2 different. There's a regular weekly pass and then the short-term rental pass. 2 different prices, 2 different people.
Yes, I know that. Yes.
We do not know. If I'll put it, if a day tripper comes up and says, I want a weekly rental pass, we're going to sell them a $22 weekly rental pass. I don't have an option. I don't have no way to check it.
Anybody else over here? Let's do this gentleman, then we'll go back to Larry.
Brian Dorsheimer Sr. I'll go Brian Dorsheimer Sr. My son's knows sea pines. One of the things that I wanted to ask is the contractor ID, but it was supposed to be done in January. Anybody that is a contractor will have a label on the outside of the pickup or car or whatever they're driving in, one on the outside on the driver's side and one on the other side. I see 10 of them come in every day, turn up Club Course Drive with nothing other than maybe a mowing machine, wood, contractors, whatever. But there's no label on the car or the truck.
Yes, sir. The plan is that we were trying to identify the commercial contractors operating inside of Sea Pines. It did not apply. So if you were a contractor and you swung a hammer for H2 Builders as an example, we would not require you to put those markings on your personal vehicle. It was only for a commercial vehicle. What we have found, this program is not going as planned. Most of them do not. It involves my department anyway. What we found, newer vehicles are made of aluminum. There's not a current CSA vehicle that a magnetic sign will stick to. And the contractors that are now required to put these signs on, there is a type of glue to hold the sign. They're refusing to put it on their truck. So I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to go back to the committee. I think this is going to be a very short-lived program. Both Palmetto Dunes and Wexford suspended that program because they fought with the contractors of trying to get this wording on the side. We had contractors, and you probably have seen them already. They've taken blue painter's tape and they wrote the name of their company in blue painter's tape with a telephone number on the side of the truck. So I don't think you'll see this probably in play next year because there's not currently anything that we can put on the door of an aluminum style pickup truck or car that will stick without putting some other type of mechanism on it, and they're refusing to do it. And to be honest with you, we're not going to turn them away. I'm going to go back to the committee and explain the problems that we're having, but it's not working as planned.
And the other question I have is the entrance to club course. The width of that piece of macadam has not changed. But what they did is they increased the section where when you're leaving club course, you can make a right-hand turn or a left turn. They gave the dimensions at the wrong spot. Now you have school buses or any truck or that has a trailer on goes up over and into that nowhere's land. So why did we go and shrink that when you have a road coming out that has been an accident waiting to happen now has increased because Ivy Lane comes out there and people make that right turn. Soon as they make that right turn, the accelerator goes on. Heaven help the guy coming out of Ivy, because I've been there numerous times when Ivy people are coming out, no one lets you in. So it needs to go back where it was. That makes it very easy right now.
Yeah, we're going to look at, the designs as we talked about and the concerns that are there and see if there's things that we can do to amend it and to improve it. So I don't have a solution for you today, but we'll certainly be discussing it with the engineers and the planners and look at what we can do. Okay. Last one, Larry. We got one from the webinar. Let's do one more from the webinar, then we'll go to Larry.
Final question from the webinar. I believe this is to Toby. Question is related again to the evaluation that will be done related to the beach shuttle parking. The question comes from Ted Levitt and is just asking for clarification. Will the short-term rental committee provide us details of how it plans to conduct the trial or evaluation, and will they be reporting back to the property owners on that?
Really can't speak for the short-term rental, but I would feel that the rental committee would provide the data back to the community. I mean, I will probably, as time goes on, just report from my monthly briefings of just how many people were actually moving with the trolley, because it is a cost. There's a $61,000+ cost for the operation, not counting the improvements that we're going to make to the lot. So I would feel, and I know Bill Johnson is here, I would venture to say that the committee would provide that data back to the community.
Yes.
Toby, it's Mark Griffith, CSA chairman. The board approved this in the March through September period on a trial basis. It will cease on the 23rd of September operating. Second of September from operating. At that point, there is no more commitment to operate that trolley until the short-term rental committee makes a recommendation to the board, and the board would need to take another action. So to Ted's point, yes, the committee will make an evaluation, and I'm certain that we will share how that determination came about. But at the end of the day, based upon what the resort has told us, there were something in the vicinity to 100 to 150 cars that they parked across the street in the Plantation Club. If we find that there are 100 and 150 cars that are coming from people that are permitted to park there, then I think it's pretty logical to believe that there's a program that needs to continue. If we find that it is substantially less than that, and we'll know on a daily basis because we're looking at this over a 7-day-a-week period, then maybe there's some shorter period of time or some shorter program, shorter hours, shorter days, but that's all going to come up through short-term rental. Thanks.
Toby, I have a question for you, okay, regarding dogs. Okay, 2 questions actually. One is, I have a couple of neighbors whose dogs get out. They don't purposely let them out, like they might open the door and one just darts and then runs all around. Is there leniency of that if they're trying to chase the dog down and get him back in relative to?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not, I mean, it's not black and white to the point. We realize that, that dogs get away from property owners. What the problem that I'm speaking to, and the one that really ruffles the hair on the back of my neck, is the owners that we knock on their door at least once, not twice a week, and tell them about their dogs. And these people don't care. That's the people that I'm speaking to. If your dog gets away from you once every 6 months, we're not citing you from the security department. You're not the problem that we're trying to deal with. It's those who think that Sea Pines is the pet's playground. That's the ones that we're referring to.
And then you mentioned that it's a state law. Well, like in Greenwood Forest, we have a lot of renters there, and they bring their dogs, and a lot of times they walk them around and they let them do stuff everywhere and don't pick it up. So we can communicate to them, to people, that it's a state law and say, hey, you're going to get fined if somebody turns you in. And do you have to catch them doing it, or if somebody?
We've instructed the property owners who are complaining, if you have a smartphone, take a picture of the dog running off the leash, because that's what we're going to show in court.
Okay.
Photographs, a video, whatever. We did meet with the short-term rental. We like Brian, your son, much better. We did talk to the short-term rental people last week. We had the largest attendance ever. We talked about dogs was on the agenda. We've asked them to please put these items in something that your renter can see. You know, laminate it, put it there, that this is the law.
Right. We send stuff out to our
Well, they don't read
it. That's the problem.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think that's it. I'll take questions afterwards. Staff is here, so come on up and we'll continue on.